still work with the board, but I cannot see Mendocino County being the only county in the state that pays lower. We all know we're paid lower on market rate, and now saying on top of everything else you're doing, you need to do this and that for the Board of Supervisors. That's not fair. That's not fair to say to hardworking public employees, we're going to make you do what nobody else in this entire state has to do to be a public attorney.
Supervisor Pinches.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In order to move this along, maybe this board, maybe it's kind of a false assumption that we thought, well, if we give this, which was, in my opinion, extreme salary increases, and certainly I guess they were justified. Maybe it was an assumption this board thought, and maybe it's because a couple of people told us this, that, well, you really have too many attorneys there. That was probably it looking for. The reality of it is, though, Mr. Chairman, what we're looking at here, we're looking at a district attorney that runs her shop, comes in on budget or under budget. That's a new and a fresh from what we've seen in the past. And so I'm not going to start to criticize that, and I appreciate that. And just by saying that, I think we need to move along. That frankly, the district attorney's budget is not a problem in this budget year. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sort of along those lines, I never heard during our labor disputes that there were too many attorneys. I never heard that comment personally, and I think it's important.
I'm going to have to counter that, but please continue.
I just said I didn't personally hear it, so that was not a personal comment I received, and I think it's important to not misconstrue or confuse the budgetary process with the meet and confer process, which are two different things.
Budgetary process with what?
With the meet and confer process with respect to labor negotiations and making decisions that have budgetary impacts, but those are two different processes. And so today we're talking about the budget. And I think that the district attorney has given us a good sort of overview as to the operational scenarios that are going forward, but mainly along Supervisor Pinch's lines to move this along. Looking at the CEO's proposed budget overview, there is a comment here that says specifically, item number 2, working with local law enforcement and the district attorney to determine potential cost savings. So I think that there are some compromises that we have in this budget from the district attorney that's clearly delineated in
big compromises.
The spreadsheet. Ms. Glassy has already stated that the executive office is not at odds with the district attorney with respect to the budget allocations. And in my very brief discussion with Mr. Mitchell, there are serious goals and efforts that will be made to actually engage in these discussions that could come up with some cost efficiencies for the entire aspect of public safety in the district attorney's office. So I think we ought to, make sure that those discussions go forward, see what they bring. Do we have some cost efficiencies and some other ways of looking at things that can occur? And we just need to move forward because, as you said, there are budget compromises, and we're certainly seeing where we have taken out classifications, the business services manager. There have been some reductions and underfillments in the department, and I think we just need to move forward.
And I think that I would appreciate at some level an acknowledgement from this board over the sacrifice that was made last year. And you haven't met her yet, but this is Catherine Kavnish. She is our new executive analyst. I'm very, very happy to have her on board. She's jumping right in. How many, was it 1 million we were under last year? We came in under $900,000 under, and that was done on the backs of the people there because the workload was there. That's significant, and it seems like somehow that gets lost, that we already, in this whole last year, made a very big sacrifice, and they worked really hard to make it happen. So,
Supervisor Colfax.
I, too, have heartburn. I think here we're hearing a little bit of the echo of the things that happened in the past. All county employees, with very, very few exceptions, make sacrifices. And if it's going to be special pleading for this, that just doesn't play very well. I want to make very, very clear, Supervisor Smith, and I think if we were to poll the board, it was not individuals who talk to us outside of the closed sessions in which we discuss these items, negotiations. But it was part and parcel of our discussion with regard to whether or not there were too many, not enough. How do you rationalize, how do you justify large salary increases? And if that is not something you recall, that I don't recall a few things now and then myself, but it is something I think that if this board were to be polled, it would say this was an item that played a key role in our response. And again, we're constrained by making public what was said, but when it's raised as, oh, one of my employees came and convinced all of you supervisors, or majority of you supervisors, and I'm not responsible for it. I frankly find that problematic, and I just would have to wonder then if there are such employees in your office who are making representations that can cloud the minds of the supervisors. They should be damn good attorneys, or they should not be working for the county of Mendocino. And I suspect it's the latter. But I don't want to get in a debate. We will not get into a
Well, I
debate
think
further
that,
on these matters.
Mr. Colfax, you have to allow me to respond because you've raised an allegation that perhaps, my attorneys are undermining me. These comments were made before I had been elected district attorney. I went through 3 elections. These negotiations were concluded and a strike concluded before I took office. They are now fully civil service employees. We do not have at will, as is typical with attorneys. So if in fact I actually was given the names and the person actually admitted it, that's not something I could certainly write it up and put that in their file. But in the past, that would certainly be grounds for termination for an attorney to step out of line like that. But I don't have that particular option any longer. And again, I came in after the fact, so I think that needs to be clear before my name is disparaged, that my attorneys are doing something that they shouldn't be doing. Thank you.
Before I go to the CEO, Supervisor Domer.
Yeah, Ms. Lintott, please don't leave yet.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, because I know when Johnny was saying, go ahead and.
No, I understand, and I just,
I apologize for
Thank you.
stepping out.
I concur with a lot of my colleagues' comments, and I want you to understand that and I do know when the timeline was, and I do know when you took office, and I know how hard you're working, and as the staff had said, as we started this item, it's night and day difference in working with you than we had previously. And it's huge difference.
Absolutely.
And I truly, and I know the board really appreciates that. So please don't misconstrue. But I will say that I had those personal conversations